Welcome back, GBA fans, to your weekly recap, the show where we summarize the results and key moments from the last week of the GBA to get you all caught up on the events of last weekend's action. My name is Gym Leader Geo, and joining me for this Week 8 recap of the GBA Season 10 is my boy Cahoots.
Aloha GBA fans, what's up? Brother Cahoots is back for the next weekly recap. I'm going to be taking you through the standings for Week 8, so let's go. So in first place, we got Bullet Punch Club holding strong to that position. In second place, we got the Borussia Donphans at 18 points. And coming in close, we got a three-way tie for third place in the Chicago Dragapults, the Atlanta Victinis, and Playmore Esports all sitting at 16 points. Up next, we got the New York Empoleons with 15. The Edmonton Coilers sitting at 14. We got the San Francisco Arcaniners holding strong at 11. The Wolverhampton Weaviles sitting at 8 points. Another tie, we got the Copenhagen Sawsbucks and the Calgary Flamethrowers at 7. And last but not least, we got the San Diego Snugglers sitting pretty at 6 points. These coaches all put on a show this week, so don't forget to check out each and every one of their matches. But without further ado, let's get into it.
San Diego Snugglers hosting the Borussia Donphan this week. Lars took home his biggest win of the season, a 4-0 victory away from home this week, with his MVP, surprisingly, a defensive Cresselia that got tricked a choice scarf on turn 2. What in the world happened here? Here are your key moments from the Snuggler Donphan matchup. First, we can't talk about this match without, first, for better or for worse, talking about Cresselia getting tricked a choice scarf. This was a strategic move by D.Rey. He pivoted in on a lead Cresselia and trapped it with Gothitelle. Tricked him a choice scarf, and now Lars' calm mindset was completely moved locked. It seemed like a great play to neuter Cresselia, but in hindsight, it's 2020. As it turns out, Lars' strategy didn't really call for Cresselia to need the calm mind, and the scarf would end up coming into play big time later in the fight, allowing Cresselia to match up against some of D.Rey's team with some hugely impactful speed creep. And it really took that early game challenge and turned it into a big advantage for Lars in the late game. To understand why, let's talk about key play number 2. Lars' game-winning strategy. And it was all the passive damage. Coach Lars and assistants coach FranCTrode talked about this as a game plan in their team builder. Set up T-spikes, spread status, and chip damage with Rocky Helmet. Get all the passive damage out there so that Annihilate doesn't get powered up by too many direct hits. And listen, this strategy worked out extremely well for the Donphans. Their Toxic Spiker Venomoth did get D.Rey fearing Quiver Dance, and that bought him the turn he needed to get Toxic Spikes set up, get the chip damage pressure on GrandMaster D.Rey, and it had a meaningful strategic significance. It was the reason Annihilate went down to Cresselia. D.Rey U-turned into Annihilate to eat a Cresselia Moonblast, and it would have survived a second if not for the poison damage ticks that he got from the poison from Toxic Spikes. And because of the previous key moment where Cresselia was choice scarf, he now outsped, and he took out one of D.Rey's biggest threats. The chip damage strategy and the choice scarf were huge in stopping Annihilate from going off. That is a big threat. And those T-spikes were a huge part of Donphan's victory this week. Last moment, I gotta mention it here, by all accounts entering the end game, Lars was poised to win this match already. He was in a very good spot. A lot of the really big threats on D.Rey's team were lost. However, there was still hope for the Snugglers. It wasn't out of the game entirely until a key moment, and that was the Iron Jugulus Hurricane miss. Now, I know, might not have been a guaranteed kill, but it was on the table, and whether it KO'd or not, the match could have looked a lot different in the end game if it hadn't missed. Think about it, with a crit, with a confusion proc, with a high roll KO, Iron Jugulus would have been able to live, would have been alive to help with Volcanion. But with a hit and no KO. Cresselia would have survived and killed IJ anyway, but it might have allowed Palafin to lock into a non-water move that could have killed Cresselia, or a Jet Punch to kill Cresselia without having to take damage. It could have forced a switch. Again, not necessarily a game-winning difference. Lars had a huge advantage at this point, but that miss was absolutely the lock. Donphan secures its biggest win of the season, 4-0 victory over the Snugglers.
Next, we have the Atlanta Victinis versus the New York Empoleons. So we got Addison taking on Jay. The assistant coach for the New York Empoleons is facing the head coach of the Atlanta Victinis. The first big play I wanted to say here is Addison is able to go for a very timely taunt from the Ceruledge onto Jay's Skeledirge on their curse, preventing them from cursing up and putting them in a great position. Ceruledge goes on to put on a clinic. However, Jay is not done fighting yet, as he is able to fight back with his Torn T, getting a nasty plot up, and with his Skeledirge able to keep Ceruledge weak, being able to take it out and gaining back some momentum. Unfortunately, it was just not enough, as Addison is able to claim the victory with a very close 3-0 match.
Arcaniners Box. George hosts Frosted this week and also handed her the Bucks' biggest loss of the season, an extremely fast, extremely aggressive 5-0 match this week. Here are your top plays. Number 1 play of this week, Rinky Dinky Tinky. Are you kidding me? This Mon took out 2 of Frosted's top 3 Mon, and it did 50% to Iron Bundle, and it got up Stealth Rocks, and it did 40% chip to Quillfish. Everything is a nail to a hammer, and this Mon laid the hammer down. Are you serious? All numbers counted, Rinky Dink was responsible for 50% of the total health pool of the Sawsbucks' entire squad. Absolute legend, absolute unit. This thing simply existing is a key moment in this matchup. Honestly, Rinky Dinky did so much work out there. There really wasn't much else to say about big plays in this game. But if there is a number 2 key moment for consideration, it's actually George's play the very next turn after Tinkerton went down to Iron Bundle. George goes King Gambit on an Iron Bundle at 50% health. Now, of course, everyone knows King Gambit Sucker Punch, and that could force a switch. And so it seems like the easy and obvious play, knowing Iron Bundle outspeeds and potentially Okos with a high roll Terra Water Hydro Pump, but George says, what if she clicks Substitute? That would be a problem. And so he takes the risk of getting outsped and O-code on his own Revenge Mon, and he clicks Katao Cleave. Predicts right on Frosted Substitute. Now, credit where it's due. That was the right play by Frosted. Absolutely. This was George's moment to shine. Frosted made the right play there. George brought this thing in as a revenge on Iron Bundle. She had to play the assumption that George knew he could be outsped and KO'd, and that Sucker was a clean KO on her. It was a huge opportunity to grind her way back into the match if she successfully played around that Sucker Punch, but George predicted perfectly. He took that high risk scenario, and the prediction absolutely sealed the deal of this match. Key moment number 3, at this point, without any of the right checks in place, George pivoted around until his Hawlucha was in versus a sleeping Quillfish. Swords Dance setup. Frosted no longer had the answers to stop a Hawlucha sweep, and bing bang boom, there you go. San Francisco Arcaniners claim 5-0, narrowly missing a +1 differential boost from Tinkerton, who survived a hit on 6 HP instead of 5. Huge victory for the Arcaniners at home.
The next match, we have the Edmonton Coilers versus the Wolverhampton Weaviles. This is the battle of the assistant coaches for this week. We got OGalbina versus Scorpion. The Weaviles was able to get some good early game damage on the Alomomola with a Specs Walking Wake. They're able to chip down this bulky water, putting them in a very good position. Unfortunately, a Hydro Miss does allow the Alomomola to live and get a wish up to pivot into the Glow King, take the next Hydro and heal up to full, putting the momentum back into their side. However, a very timely freeze on the Great Tusk from the Tyranitar's Ice Beam, allowing OGalbina to get his Valiant in safely to Terra and kill the Great Tusk with Shadow Ball, and then taking the momentum for the rest of the match. This was a very hacksy game, so please go ahead and check out all the fun and excitement, but the Edmonton Coilers is able to clinch the victory with a solid 4-0 win.
Bullet Punch Club host Playmore Esports this week. The two top contenders in the league. They come face to face in week 8, and what an amazing match this was. Honestly, expert play and expert prep from both sides. Let's start with key play number 1 here, and that's the opening. The General himself plays an absolutely perfect opening. Playmore, I mean, just wow. Gets up an early sun, swaps into Heatran to put in some massive early work. Because of this, and because of the moves that had to be made by the Bullet Punch Club, Azumarill actually goes down to Heatran in the opening flurry of turns. Absolutely huge offensive threat handled by a Heatran. Expertly playing those opening turns to capitalize on his advantage from the correct lead and push for as much benefit as possible out of it. But key moment number 2 here, Uzi has a couple of perfect plays himself. Those being the free offensive momentum that he gained by playing around Miss Magia's taunt. 2 taunts by PME this game, 2 KOs for Uzi and the Bullet Punch Club. Uzi nets 2 kills by gaining those free turns of momentum on the taunt, and that is key moment number 2 for me. Next moment here, I'm calling it RNG for thee and not for me. Here's the situation. Uzi's Avalugg at this point has weakened Roaring Moon, and it's in Dragonite E-Speed cleanup range. This was Ben's last remaining win condition, and it was gone. But Playmore weren't out of the match yet. RNG gods could still have potentially given PME a victory at this point. It would have required some luck, but it could have happened. If and only if Sandaconda had a chance to glare Dragonite. That's what had to happen. He had a chance to do that, but unfortunately, in order to do that, Sandaconda would need to get through Galarian Zapdos first and exit that head-to-head with enough HP to take 1 Terra Normal Adamant Banded E-Speed from Dragonite in order to get off that glare and then play for the full para win. And in order to do that, Sandaconda would need about 50% HP going into that matchup. Very possible. This was a rest Shed Skin set. It could have happened. Unfortunately, Shed Skin and Paraluck heavily favored against him, and no hope for Ben there. Uzi in the paralyzed Zapdos situation worked out perfectly in that scenario. Paralyzed Zapdos versus Shed Skin rest Sandaconda showdown. Sandaconda really needed to have Zapdos go down after a rest to Rocky Helmet damage. That's the situation that Sandaconda truly needed. If that happened, then Sandaconda goes in against the Dragonite, full HP, opportunity to get, or close to full HP, opportunity to get the glare off, and you can kind of play for the RNG shenanigans, but the RNG gods said no shenanigans. They're not going to save Playmore Esports that day. Very close fight where the momentum swung hard in the mid game, and Bullet Punch Club take the match 2-0.
Up next, we got the Chicago Dragapults versing the Calgary Flamethrowers. A very crucial turn here for the Chicago Dragapults, where they're able to keep a Terraquavel low by sacrificing their Tauros, allowing their Scizor to come in and get the revenge kill with Bullet Punch, preventing a very easy Quavel sweep. A huge protection from Gallade, raw Dragon Pulsing in front of a Scizor, expecting Q to switch out, and being able to OHKO the incoming Dragapult, dropping it and getting some big momentum on his side. However, Q is able to find his out and clutch the game with Bullet Punch Scizor for a very close 1-0 victory.
From all of us here at the GBA, we hope you enjoyed this last week of matchups. Be sure to check out all of these fantastic coaches. Link in the description down below. On behalf of myself, Cahoots, and the entire GBA staff, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.